Well, hello, everybody. I wish that I could see you face to face. Boy, do I miss seeing our students here in the Gendall School. This is Dr. Monica Powell, your Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean, and I'd like to welcome you to your Spring 2021 registration webinar. So what are we going to cover in this webinar? Well, number one, we're going to go over the famous course modalities that are open to you for Spring 2021 classes. Just review those so that you know what to look for when you're looking at the course schedule. And then we're going to talk about registration, because I know a lot of you are going to have questions about registration, course availability, how to sign up, challenges with wait lists, and we of course want to address all of those questions. But before we get to all of those questions, let's do a refresher on the course modality options that you have for Spring 2021. So let's talk about the Spring 2021 course modalities. For all of our virtual students and our continuing students, you've seen this before. There's nothing new about the chart that's on your screen, but we do want to remind you of those options. So there are 5 course modality options for Spring 2021, including traditional face-to-face, where you're in the classroom, you're masked, the faculty member is masked. Then we have hybrid, and hybrid is where part of the class is face-to-face and part of the class is online. And then, of course, you have this crazy one that we call high flex or flexible. And that's where you rotate as groups of students in and out of the class so that everybody has an opportunity to be face-to-face. And then, of course, remote, which means that you are taking your class at the time that it is scheduled and your faculty member is delivering that class, maybe from the classroom, maybe from their home office, maybe from their campus office, but the class is going on at this regularly scheduled time. And then, of course, the traditional online class that is fully asynchronous all of the time. It is a course that has a W in the section number. So when you're looking at these 5 modalities, it's important for you to be mindful of those that are considered to be face-to-face options. Those are the first 3 columns on your chart: the traditional, the hybrid, and the high flex or flexible. So if you are a student that needs to take a face-to-face option, you're going to want to be sure that you are in one of those 3. Now, the other factor we just want to remind everybody of is that any of these options are available asynchronously to a student, which means if you are unable to join it streaming or you are unable to join it face-to-face, you can participate asynchronously and let your faculty member know that that is what you are choosing to do. So for all of our FB students who joined us virtually, you know, it really didn't matter which option you joined it last fall because you were attending all of those through streaming. But if you're going to be here on campus, you're going to want to consider those face-to-face options. So be mindful of whether or not you're required to have a face-to-face option versus being able to choose from any of those. And if you have questions about any of these course modalities, we're going to entertain all of those questions at the end of this session, and you are welcome to put your questions into the chat. So let's continue on so that you can understand a little bit about the course registration dates, the appointment times, and when you're able to actually register for classes in 2021. So let's move on to the next session.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy that you're able to join us today. I want to take a little bit of time to provide information and reminders about what you need to keep in mind each semester as you prepare for registration. My number 1 recommendation for a successful registration is preparation. So we want to make sure that we get started with that today. Now, the first item that we want to cover is the academic calendar. So this is available to you every semester, and it outlines important deadlines that you have to keep in mind, including the window of registration, last day to add coursework, the first and last days of class, as well as detailed payment information on page 2. And on this slide, page 2 is actually on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, it does not display the complete calendar, so make sure that you go on the UTD page and get a copy. Go ahead and print it out. Add these dates to your own personal calendar on your phone, and maybe even set some reminders for yourself ahead of these deadlines so that they don't get past you. Everything kind of about registration revolves around the academic calendar, so it's very important that you have a copy and that you are aware of the deadlines that are coming up. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your coursework, right? In order to start registering, you have to figure out what courses you're going to add for that semester. You decide how many courses you want to take, then you have to figure out which ones they will be. So for that, you have to be available of your degree requirements. I always like to remind students that the degree requirements come from the graduate catalog, which you can access via the link on this slide. It's a pretty short link. It's catalog.utdallas.edu. Please take some time to look through it if you haven't already. Keep it handy as a resource. You don't have to memorize it, but do get comfortable with the information in it, especially with the information regarding the courses that you need to be able to earn your degree. Now, because we're talking about the catalog, I always want to also mention the required GPA. To be able to continue in the program, you have to keep a minimum GPA in your of 3.0 in your degree program, your core, and your overall. So that you have to be mindful of doing well in your classes and keeping an eye on that GPA, because if it does fall below that 3.0, it may ultimately mean that you're not able to continue in the program and you may not be able to earn your degree. Now, getting back to how you choose your courses, another item that you can find useful in determining what classes you need is a tool that we prepare in our office and that we call the Degree Plan Worksheet. We take the information from the catalog regarding the courses that you need for your degree and we place them in which I think it's a very easy to read PDF spreadsheet that then helps you kind of figure out what courses you've already satisfied and what courses you still need to complete, so that also kind of gives you an indication of what courses you need to make sure that you're enrolling in the upcoming semester. The last item I want to mention is that your program director and their team, they also put a lot of information to get together that they either email out to you or that they present at events and webinars. And it includes details on their recommendation on courses. So please take advantage of that type of information. The program director, the faculty that they work with, they're the experts in the field that you're studying in. And so their insight is so useful in helping you make the most of your degree. So be mindful of the information that they provide as well. So now, when it comes to registration, your registration is actually going to happen within the Orion Student Center. So we definitely want to go ahead and take a look at that. As you know, you log into the Orion Student Center via Galaxy using your NetID and password. The main UTD page will contain the link. So utdallas.edu, at the very top of the page, you will see the link to Galaxy, which then gives you Orion Student Center. I did want to remind you that if you ever have any logging issues because of your NetID or password or just something doesn't work, you can always reach out to the computer help desk, also known as the OIT help desk. They'll be the ones to kind of help you troubleshoot. I put the link on the slide, but you don't necessarily have to remember it. Whenever you go to the page to log in, there will always be right below it, as it shows on the bottom of this slide, is a link where you can click and get access to the help desk. So contact the help desk. It's going to be accessible to you right there. So now once you go into the Orion Student Center, you will see these tiles, right? There's a lot of information, even beyond what we're going to cover about registration, that you would have accessible within the Orion Student Center. Now, Manage My Classes is the main tile that we use, where you're going to find a lot of the information that you need for registration. But before we jump and look at what the content of Manage My Classes, I actually want to look at a tile that's labeled Tasks. So to stay connected with you and to keep you informed on required tasks that you have to complete, we utilize to-do lists and holds, which are the items that you can essentially find within this tile. Holds are going to be placed in your account if there are any actions that you have to take before being allowed to move forward in your program. So this is a very important part in preparation for registration. You have to make sure that you take a look at this tasks tile and then take care of any pending items, clear any holds, so that once you start registering, this is not something that holds you back. So take care of it ahead of time so that you're ready to go when the time for registration begins. The next one is the next thing I want to cover is the Manage My Classes tile. So as you can see, there's a lot of information on this tile that contains to registration, from searching for classes, actually adding a class, dropping a class. The items towards the bottom of the list may not be items specifically related to registering, but they're also informational once you're enrolled, right? What's my exam schedule? Where can I get my books? But for right now, what I wanted to point out is in the middle of those bullet points on the slide, you will see something called Enrollment Appointment, right? So if you go to this tile, this is where you can also view your enrollment appointment. I want to remind you that even though it's called Enrollment Appointment, it actually isn't an appointment. This is actually just a date and time when you can actually start registering in your coursework. And sometimes to help clarify that, we refer to it as an enrollment date. So as soon as that date and day and time hits or starts, you are able to then log into the system and start adding courses to your schedule. Of course, you do not wait until that day and time to start planning for it. So even though your day and time is not until a few weeks from now, you can start today, start planning. Once the schedule goes live, start planning what courses you want to take, put them in your shopping cart, get it ready to go. So then as soon as your enrollment day and time hits, all you have to do is just say, finish enrolling. That's going to make it easier and more likely that you get more of the type of schedule that you want to get instead of starting to plan right when your enrollment day and time hits. All right, so my final thoughts on registration specifically, and also this is also something that's going to help you just being a student at UTD, is just to be aware that all of the communication with UTD departments has to be through UTD email. So please make sure that it is up and running, that you can log in and check your email, and then make sure to work with a computer help desk if it's not working, and make sure that you're checking it on a regular basis, because not only is it going to be a tool for you to reach out to us, but it's also an important tool for us to reach out to you. Sometimes we need to give you information, ask a question, be proactive about something and that we're emailing you about. So it's good that you check it on a regular basis and that you keep a communication going with us through your UTD email. And then I know that as a UTD student, you know that you receive two IDs, right? One's called the UTD ID, which is the one that starts with 20 and just has numbers. And then the other one's called the net ID, which is essentially your initials followed by some numbers. Now, there's a difference in how you use these. Whenever you communicate with us via email for assistance with registration, for example, don't use the UTD ID. So keep the UTD ID to yourself. Keep it protected. Don't share it. Kind of treat it a little bit like your social security number. It is an identification number that we are aware of, but it's not something that you want to share over email. If we do need to kind of determine who you are to make sure that we're looking at the same file, we could use the net ID. So if in email we need to make sure that we're talking or we're working with the correct file, we will ask you for your net ID, but we will never ask you for your UTD ID. The last thing is that I want to mention is that we do have a page dedicated for registration information. So please take some time to check it out. It's going to have a lot of details on items that I covered today, but a lot more information about, the academic calendar, the full link so that you can see the full page, the catalog, a link to the catalog, how to search for classes. We've added some videos on there that hopefully will help you figure out how you can search for classes. So I hope that you find that page very useful. I hope that you found the information that I've shared with you today very useful. But of course, if there's ever a doubt and you need help, please reach out. Please let us know, and we'll definitely be happy to help. All right. Thank you.
So I bet that there are a multitude of questions out there and that you guys are putting them into the chat. Corina and I are here to answer as many questions that you have. We want to make sure that everybody is set and ready when they are scheduled to enroll, they'll be ready to enroll. So I am betting that Norma, we've got some questions in the chat.
We do. So the first one is, has the registration for courses for spring 2021 started already?
No, it has not. So Corina, when is the first appointment time that students have?
Sure. So the schedule has been published. If you wanted to go ahead and take a look at your classes, the options, you can definitely start planning. The first registration will start in the first week of November. So you have
you've
a
got
good
time.
amount of time.
A lot of time to look at the schedule, a lot of time to consider getting more information. Norma, do we have the slide with all the program webinars that we can share with everybody? Because if you have a question about your degree program and you really want to understand either a prerequisite or a core or the electives, or you're really new and you want to understand the tracks or the concentrations, all of the degree programs are going to be holding these great webinars in the next week or so. And you can see the time and date listed here, and you can see where you can get program information. But you should attend these so that you can ask all the questions you desire about how is this class different from this class? If I'm doing this concentration, should I focus on this elective or that elective? It's a great opportunity to get feedback directly from your program director and your support coordinator. Oftentimes they have current students that also attend these sessions and are able to answer questions. So again, if you have questions about your degree program and maybe what you should register for as you're trying to make these decisions about what you register for in spring of 2021, this is really the greatest venue for you to ask those questions, and they have time that's dedicated just for you. So do make that a priority and try to attend those in the next week or so.
Will there be an asynchronous option for all classes in the spring?
Yes, there will. So every single course modality is available asynchronously.
This person is curious if more courses will be added. They're mostly seeing online with no class times assigned to them.
So what you're seeing is not mostly online. What you're seeing is remote classes. Remote classes are not online classes. The purely online classes are those that have a section with a W in it. And as a reminder to all of our students, there is an additional fee for those classes. But yeah, you do see a lot of remote classes simply because of the circumstances being unpredictable about COVID. A lot of our faculty, of course, are wanting to keep students safe, and we're wanting to keep our faculty safe. But there are still quite a number of face-to-face modalities that are in there. It could be that some classes could change from remote to one of the face-to-faces. That could happen. We don't know how the circumstances might come that they might change, but we were changing modalities right up until the start of fall. So it could happen that some of them do change and are modified.
We've had a few of our continuing international students ask about the restrictions as far as which course modalities they need to take, or if they can take online, if they can take remote, etc.
Wow, so this is a really complicated question, and it has a complicated answer. So I want all of you that are international continuing students to listen really carefully, because this is important. If you are a continuing student who happened to be a virtual student this fall, and you were in your home country in Vietnam, South Korea, Germany, France, wherever you might have been in the world, and you have not yet been to UT Dallas, but you attended all virtually in the fall, and you're going to be coming to be with us in the spring, you will need one face-to-face modality class. That means you need to be in one that is either traditional, hybrid, or flexible, because that will be important for your immigration status if you were completely virtual in the fall. If you are a continuing international student who's already right here in the United States, right here in DFW, then you don't have that requirement on you for attending a face-to-face class. It only affects you if you are arriving in the United States first to be here for the first time. Then the rule does apply to you.
So there are two courses that they need to enroll in, both remote and virtual with a time slot, but there's a schedule conflict. Can they take both of those, but take one of them asynchronously?
Technically, no. The schedule will not let you enroll in 2 classes that are scheduled at the same time. Corina, can you confirm that for me, please?
You're correct, Dr. Powell. So if there is a time conflict with the courses, registration won't be possible. So that's correct.
Corina, while you are on, we've had a couple students say, ask where in Galaxy they can find which modality it is. I know it's also in Coursebook, but also they're asking about Orion.
Sure. So once you're in the Orion Student Center and you go to that tile that I showed you that is Manage My Classes, once you search for the classes, you'll see the course prefix, course number, and then course description. Below that, who teaches it. But right below the course description, there's going to be what's called a class attribute. And that's where you're going to see the course mode. So it will say remote or traditional. It will have that label there. It's really close to class notes as well. It's the same area. So just look for the course description, and right below that, you will find that information.
And I have another question for you. How does a student check if they've completed all of their core courses?
So if you look at your degree plan, if you've gotten a copy from us, or you can always double check the catalog as well. The core courses are always going to be very well defined for you, and it will show you exactly what classes you need. If it's a degree plan from us, we would have marked them. We probably put the semester and the grade that you've earned on that degree plan. But if it's you just started, maybe this is your first semester and you tackled your core, you just have to double check with the catalog to make sure that those are the courses that you did. Attending the webinars that are on the screen also will help you, because the programs are going to give you a lot of information about the differences in the core, any foundation courses you may have, and then how you move towards your elective options and any tracks. So the programs could also help define that for you.
Yeah, I think that's great, Corina. I'm going to throw in one more thing. If you go to the graduate catalog and you look, be sure you're looking at your catalog. So if you started classes in fall of 19, unless you've changed to a later catalog, you need to look at the fall 19 graduate catalog. If you are a new student starting in fall of 20, then be sure to look at the fall 2020 catalog, because degree programs do change from year to year, and you just want to make sure that you have the right one that applies to you.
The next question is, how do I view my enrollment appointment?
I can take that. So in your Orion Student Center, the same place that I showed you. So once you log into your Orion Student Center, you see all those tiles. Go to Manage My Classes, and it's going to be one of the options there. It will say View My Enrollment Appointment. And so just click that, and then just make sure you select the correct semester, because Spring 2021 is the only registration that's going to be open at this time. It should default to Spring 2021, but you can always double check. And once you select that, it will show you what your enrollment appointment date and time is.
Corina, related to that, what are the last dates to register to enroll for Spring 2021?
The last dates?
Yes.
Is that okay?
The last date
so
to register.
Registration is going to go all the way into January. I actually pulled up the Spring 2021 calendar, and you can actually register through regular registration, which means no late fees, up to January 14th. So you have from now till January 14th to register. There's a window of about a week between January 15th and January 26th, which is late registration. But if you do enroll within that window of time, you may have a late fee to pay.
I wouldn't encourage you to wait that long, however. I would register and get it taken care of, and make sure that you're getting the classes that you want. The later you wait, the greater risk that the classes that you want are not going to be there.
And I think we talked about this earlier, but I can't recall, so I apologize. But is there a chance of additional courses being added to the course schedule later?
There could be. It is not likely that we're going to add additional classes. We might, change a modality here and there, but the schedule is pretty set as you see it right now. You shouldn't expect a lot of changes, or many, if any, changes. They will be very, very few, and it would likely be a course modality or a change in faculty who are assigned. That could also happen.
So this person has a question about enrollment appointments. So I'll direct that to Corina. This person sees 3 different times on the page. Is there a specific time at the top of the page?
So what you're likely seeing, because there's a full term session in a semester, there's also an 8-week session and a second 8-week session. Now, most of the courses are full term. So I think the differences in the dates are just based on those full term, first 8 weeks, second 8 weeks. So just make sure that you're looking at the full term, or it could be labeled 16 week session, which are the ones that are going to then show you that date. I'm thinking probably the first 8 week will match up with that because it starts at the beginning. The second 8 week may be a little bit later, but just look at those labels. It would only be one, but just make sure it's a full term. I think that's the different dates you may be seeing on your screen.
So, Corina, I think this next one might be for you. They have set classes. If I'm understanding this correct, I guess they have a set of classes that they're required to take. Do they need to add those to their cart as well as an elective, or would that be more of a question specifically for their program and the program webinar?
Yeah, so it could be a program question. It all depends on how you want to plan your courses. There are some in your first semester core courses you probably want to take for some of the programs. Then once you get past that, then you want to start probably doing some electives along with your core courses. But if you do attend one of these webinars, the programs will definitely give you more details because it matters what program you're working on, the advice that we would give you for that question.
Monica, can they use their full-time job to waive the internship requirement?
So it depends. You need to complete a waiver. And if you've had full-time employment in the United States, that is generally a waiver of professional development. It does not count if it's work outside of the United States. So it just depends on the circumstances, and you just need to complete that waiver form, which you can find under forms in the advising website, where you'll also find regular waiver forms.
Is it possible that a course modality will change between, right now when they see it on the course schedule and before school starts for a specific course?
If I were a betting person, and when I make bets, I usually lose them, which is why I don't ever buy a lottery ticket. But I would, if I were a betting person, and I felt like I was good at it, I would say 99% of the schedule that you see is going to be the schedule as is. I think that there could be a couple of faculty changes that might occur for circumstances that we aren't aware of what they are. There could be a couple of classes that might change modalities, but the schedule that you see is it's the one that is out there right now, and it's the one we're going to be going with. So I would not look for a substantial number of changes, or many, if any, changes to it. They're going to be very, very marginal.
So this question, how do I look at my course catalog? Do you provide each student with an individual course catalog?
So that's a great question, and one we haven't been asked in our webinars this year. But if you go to the utdallas.edu website and you put into the search bar that you want the graduate catalog, it'll take you to a link where you get to choose the 2017, the 2018, the 2019, the 2020 graduate catalog. You are in the catalog in the semester that you entered. These are fall catalogs. So if you entered in spring of 2018, you're going to be in the fall 17 catalog. If you entered in spring of 19, you'll be in the fall 2018 catalog, because a catalog goes for an entire academic year. So you should think about when you started. If you started in a fall, spring, or a summer, then you're going to be in that fall catalog. I'm not sure I said that very well. Corina, do you think you can say that a little bit better?
Sure, I can try.
Yeah, it's hard.
Just For the website, you can do catalog.utdallas.edu, and that gets you there. So catalog.utdallas.edu. And then, yeah, so it does cover an academic year. So basically, anybody who starts in a fall semester in the following summer, and the following spring and the following summer are all within the same catalog. Then
Right.
the following fall becomes a new catalog. And so anybody who starts that fall, the following spring, the following summer, then they're in the same catalog. So it's definitely an academic year. Everybody within that academic year has the same catalog.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated, but that's a really good question. And we do have students that start in the spring and the summer, but you are in the previous fall's catalog.
Monica, this person is in the pre-MBA track. Should they attend both the MS Management Science and the MBA program webinars?
So I think it's a good idea to attend both. So I would look forward to attending both, with the primary one being the MBA.
If a course is in the flexible mode with rotating on-campus sessions, can a student choose to take it synchronously in a fully remote manner?
Yes, they can. You can choose any of the course modalities. You can choose to be asynchronous. Now, I'm going to throw one little tiny caveat out there for our international students. Our goal for you, and I know your goal for yourself, is that you can someday get an H-1B opportunity here in the U.S. And at the point that you go to do that, you got to go back, and oftentimes you're questioned about reports for evidence on attendance. And I think that if you're an international student, it's easier to show attendance if you try to be in a face-to-face class as opposed to choosing asynchronous. But that may not be possible given your circumstances, and that may be moot by the time that you get there, because the whole world is in this COVID-19 situation. And regardless if you're going to school here or Arizona State or Michigan or the University of California, all students are facing asynchronous options. But when you can, I think it's always great to be in person.
This person searched for a class in the guided search, I'm assuming in Coursebook. They said the catalog, but I think when it comes to guided search, that's in Coursebook.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that the class will not be offered in spring 21?
Yes, you got to be really careful with that search mechanism. So make sure you're trying the advanced and this other search mechanism. But yes, that is likely true. It is not being offered in spring. Now, the one thing that you can do is to attend the program webinars that are on your screen, because those program directors are going to know when that class is offered the next time, and they're going to be able to give you insight into that.
We have a couple questions next from international students. So this person is a continuing student who was present in the U.S. for the first 2 semesters, but they are taking fall 2020 semester remotely from their home country, and they have 1 semester left to complete their degree. What is the enrollment requirement from them? It sounds like right now this semester they are in their home country.
So I assume, and Corina, I'm going to have you jump in here with me because this can get very complicated, and I'm going to also encourage the student to reach out to ISSO. So if you are going to stay in your home country and take those courses from your home country, then there is probably not a requirement for a number of hours because you're not physically here. But if you're going to be here in the U.S., then the restriction and in class, and physically here, number one, you need to check with ISSO to find out if you need to be enrolled in a face-to-face class because you came back into the U.S. And then the other factor is you need to be enrolled in the course hours that will complete your degree. So if you only need 3 credit hours, then that's the one time you can be under-enrolled. But if you need 6 credit hours, then you're going to need to be enrolled in 6 credit hours. So Corina, can you jump in? Because that really depends upon where the student is physically.
Correct. Dr. Powell, I think that you explained it correctly. If you're not here and you're going to be completing your coursework outside, there really is no requirement on the number of courses you have to take. You could take 1 course if that's what you would want to do. And then the same thing is if you are physically here, then you would be if you're on an F1 visa that requires certain enrollment, then you would have to follow that requirement, double checking with the International Services Office. On the academic side, there's no minimum enrollment. To be active in a semester, you need at least 1 credit hour of coursework.
Thank you, Corina. That was a great question, whoever asked it, but it's a complicated answer.
So there's a couple of students that mentioned that when they're searching for classes, they don't see professor names in the system. When will those be updated?
It just depends. Many of the areas are still working to confirm the various faculty that are teaching sections. That just depends upon when they make those names available so that we can get them into the system. So it could be tomorrow that they go and update with some faculty names. It could be 3 weeks from now. That is controlled by the area. But you can always attend one of these program sessions this next week, and the program director may be able to give you greater insight into who the faculty is that's teaching the class.
Can an international student take an online class apart or along with an internship in the graduating semester, or does it have to be a face-to-face class?
If that student has been in the U.S. and did not leave the U.S. and it is their last semester, then yes, they should be able to do that.
Will final exams for spring be online, held similar to fall finals?
That is the expectation we have. That has not been announced yet, but that is the expectation that I think we can expect. And I think that exams will continue using honor lock this next semester as they have this fall.
Would you elaborate on what the first 8-week and second 8-week session is?
Oh, that's a great question. So the Jindal School is one of 8 schools at the University of Texas at Dallas. And some of those schools, a number of those schools offer what they call first 8-week classes and second 8-week classes, where they might offer a 3 credit hour course in the first 8 weeks and a 3 credit hour course or set of courses in the second 8 weeks. Inside the Jindal School, we don't typically do that. We only have a handful of classes that are set in either the first half or the second half of the semester. If you look across the schedule, 99% of the classes are 16 weeks long. We just have a handful of classes that are first 8 weeks or second 8 weeks. It's just very rare. The one class that comes to my mind that tends to be second 8 weeks is MAS 6105, which is a communications class requirement for the MBAs as they come in. And that's offered in the second 8 weeks. So students have a chance for a waiver in the first 8 weeks. But Corina, there's just few, if any, classes that are in an 8-week format.
Correct. For the majority of, I actually want to say for all of your classes that you're taking for your MS program, you will be seeing a regular academic schedule, which is a 16-week. You really are not going to encounter the first 8 week or the second 8 week.
The only time that ever becomes a factor is if a student obtains an internship very early in the semester and they want to do an internship, then they might sign up for an internship in the second 8 weeks. But that's actually the only example I can even think of, along with the MAS 6105. I don't think there are any others.
This person is an international student and they were in the US during the fall semester attending all classes virtually, but not based in Dallas. Do they necessarily need to attend one face-to-face class in spring, or are they allowed to take all virtual classes?
If they are here in the United States and we're in the fall, they do not have a requirement to take a face-to-face. And they have to make the judgment call about whether or not they want to be here and attend a class. That's not a judgment call that we make. But if you were in the US, you do not have the requirement of taking any of the face-to-face modalities in the spring.
Do they have to email to have an advising appointment before they can register the same way they did for fall?
So, gosh, that's a really great question. So we encourage every single student to own their their enrollment experience, and for them to have studied the graduate catalog, for them to have attended a session with their program to understand what their core classes are, what their elective classes are, what the concentrations are. Because if you have a question about, should I sign up for this class or that class, that's not an appointment with an advisor. An advisor can help you with registration. An advisor can make sure that your GPA is on track, or if you're a student who's on probation. But if you want guidance with regard to, you know, a class or a portion of your degree plan, then you need to be seeking that help from your degree program, the program director, the support coordinators that are working for the degree programs. Now, if you want an advising appointment with an advisor in the advising office because you're having a registration difficulty or a challenge, or you have a question, they are more than glad to meet with you, and they are glad to make that appointment. And you can make that appointment from the advising website. So if you go to our homepage at gendall.utdallas.edu and then click on advising, which is in the top navigation bar, it's the very first word. When you get to that page for advising, there is a button where you can make an advising appointment. But again, they are really to help you with the registration process, where the degree program is to help you with the advice on courses. So I hope that answered that question. Corina, do you think I did that okay?
Yes, I think that you did okay.
Okay, good.
There are sections with OW1 and days and times are TBA. So this person is wondering when the days and times will be announced, but it's an OW1, so it's an online. I think there's a little bit differentiation between remote versus online course mode.
So I am so glad whoever asked this question. So the first four modalities, traditional, hybrid, flexible, and remote, you will see a specific day and time that class is happening live. Now, you may be participating in it because it's being streamed to you, you're not in the room, or you may be participating in any of those four asynchronously and you're watching the course links or the classes in an asynchronous way. But if you sign up for a class that has a W in the section title, that means that class is completely asynchronous. There is not a date and time. That means that you are logging on, you are watching the course recordings, you're doing the assignments, you're following the syllabus for the class, but that does not have a designated class date and time. It is completely asynchronous. Also, just as a FYI, those courses also have a distance learning fee associated with them. So if you're in the W section, there's an additional fee, and that is completely asynchronous. No time, no date.
Do we know if these course modalities will continue for summer courses?
We do not know that yet, but boy, do we hope they don't. I sure hope that by March and April, we're all getting our vaccines for coronavirus. The world is getting back to the world we know and love, and we'll be here on campus in a regular way in summer of 2021. I do think, since you asked, I do think that there are going to be some great silver linings from this horrible situation. And I do think that we'll see more classes that'll be available in a remote context, because I think what we have found is with graduate students, they love having the flexibility. But I really hope we don't have all 5 course modalities next summer. I hope we get back to normal, but I do think we'll have more that'll be in a remote way for students. But we'll wait and see. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but we're going to prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
This person is in the online professional MBA program, and they're looking into applying for a certificate program in the area of concentration. However, one of the courses needed for the certificate program seems to be offered in person. Is there a way to still do the certificate program?
Yeah, you can just, if you're an online student, you can just take that class asynchronously. Just sign up for it, and instead of being there live, You can choose to take it asynchronously, let your faculty member know that you'll be participating asynchronously and enrolled asynchronously. Then you'll just go into e-learning, look at the class links, follow it, and do it just like a regular remote class.
This next person looked up their enrollment appointment, and they were asking, so they know their enrollment date, but they were wondering about what time will the enrollment open. Does it also display a time for them?
Oh gosh, I don't know the answer to that. Corina, what's the answer to that?
Yes, the answer is yes. It actually will show you when you go to the page and you see it, you'll see that it will say regular academic session, and there's a section that says enrollment appointment. And so you want to look at that section. There's more information, probably below that, but it'll say enrollment appointment. Then it'll have a date and it will have a time. Right below the date, you'll see a time. So then you have to wait until that date and that time to actually start enrolling. You won't be able to register if it says 3 p.m. You have to wait until 3 p.m. Central Standard Time in case you're not in the area for you to then start your registration. So you will see it. It will be there. Just look for enrollment appointment and then you'll see that date.
Corina, while you are on, this person has completed their core courses, and they were wondering if they can take more core courses and will they be counted towards their total credits?
So it depends on your degree. If you've satisfied the core courses that are required in your program, the rest of the degree is going to be defined within the what's in the catalog. So if in the catalog, it allows you to continue taking courseworks that could have been options in your core, then the answer to that would be yes. But some programs do not have that. Some programs have core courses that are only core. And then once you go into your elective options, you will not see any duplicate or any additional opportunity to take what it was in the core. So it's just you would have to look at your degree plan, or you would have to look at the catalog to see if it allows you to do that or not. It really depends on your program.
And that's a great question to ask in one of the webinars, because it is different from degree program to degree program. In some you could do that, but in others you can't do that. So be sure you ask that question in one of the webinars this next week.
In Coursebook, this person sees that some courses have non-enroll mentioned next to them. What does that mean?
I don't know if I've ever seen that. Corina, do you recognize that question?
I do not. I'm pulling up Coursebook really quickly just to see if I notice any place where that would be. I don't know. If you send us an email, we can definitely see what you're looking at to figure out what that is about.
If you want to take a snippet of it and put it in the chat, then Norma can show it to Corina.
I'm not sure if they'll be able to put attachments like that in the chat, but go ahead and take a snippet of it and then send it to Jindal, JINDAL @utdallas.edu, and we will be happy to look into that and figure out what's going on there.
And be sure to include your email address.
Yes, please. What percentage roughly of the classes are offered in person?
Oh gosh, I think if I remember correctly, across the entire Jindal school, which is grad and undergrad, I may get my numbers off here a little bit, but it was around 600 sections were being offered. And I think about 185 of them were in face-to-face. And then some portion of that 185 was undergrad and some portion of that was grad. I don't remember the breakdown, but I think it was something like, I don't know, 88 of them were undergrad and 88 of them were grad. I don't remember, but it was something close to that. But we're offering just about 600 sections of coursework in the spring. So that's a lot of sections.
I do have a follow-up answer. Dr. Heffley, our program director for business analytics cohort, is online, and he says that non-enroll means not available for enrollment. So it shouldn't be visible, but still send us that snippet so that we can look into it and investigate that a little bit more.
Yeah, and make sure it's not visible. Thank you, Dr. Heffley.
This person wants to know if they can take 5 classes in one semester as a graduate student.
Sure you can. I hope you're not working while you're doing it. A full-time load for a graduate student by academic standards is 9 credit hours. So if you decide to take 5 classes, you're taking a big load. So just make sure that you can handle that load. And I would not encourage you to do that if you are doing an internship or working full-time. That will be you will be all stressed out. And we want you to be academically successful. So I would really talk with somebody before you think about signing up for 5 classes, because that's a big graduate load. We have had students do it and they have been successful, but they are definitely in the minority, and it's a very exceptional situation.
If a core course has a prereq that is not required for their degree plan and or taken in undergrad, what is the process to register for that course?
So, Corina, you want to talk about, it sounds to me like they're trying to do a waiver for a prereq. Corina, isn't that what you're thinking too?
Yeah, I think it's 2 parts. So the first part is if there is a prereq to a class, you have to meet that prereq. So I know that the question included if it's not required in my degree. Most of the prereqs are included in your degree. There are few instances where that prereq would count as an elective for your degree, but the prereq for that course has to be met. So that's the first part. Now, if you do have background in that prereqs academic area, then there is a possibility that you could submit paperwork to be reviewed for a waiver of that course prereq. But you just have to remember that it has to be more than 1 undergrad class. For example, you need 6 credit hours. The policy is that you need at least 6 credit hours of undergrad background in that class to potentially be approved for a waiver for you to register without that prereq.
And just remember, if you're going to attempt to waive a prerequisite, then you need to do that sooner and not later. You need to start submitting that and doing it quickly and not leaving it till later, because that takes time to process that. That request for a waiver has to go through a review process to be approved so that you could register for a class so you can demonstrate that you fulfilled the prerequisite and you have time to register for the class.
This next question, what if a class says it's only offered once every 2 years but requires a prerequisite? There is a spring 2021 course that requires a prereq that I will be taking this semester, but they want to graduate in 2022.
You want to repeat that again, Norma?
Yeah, I was a little confused myself. So there's a class that's only offered once every 2 years, but requires a prereq. They're taking the prereq this semester, but they want to graduate in 2022. And the class I guess they want is also offered in the spring.
Well, if they're taking the prereq for it now and the class is offered in the spring, then they should be able to register for it because the system will recognize that they're currently enrolled in the prereq. So that should be fine. Now, if they are suggesting that the class that they are doing the prereq for now isn't going to be offered until 2022, and you know, what can you do to make that class come up sooner? You'll need to ask the program director about that. They'll have information. They are actively involved in how classes are scheduled and what the needs are of students. They'll be able to give you greater insight as to when that class will be offered again. You know, sometimes they come into the rotation sooner than what the catalog says. So they would have the best insight as to when that class would be offered. But I'm not quite sure I completely understood the question. That was a little bit of a complicated question. If the class is being offered in spring of 2022 and you're taking, 2021, and you're taking the prereq right now, then the system will allow you to enroll in that course because it'll know that you're in that class now.
If we have 4 credits to complete, can we enroll in a 3 credit course now and wait until we land the internship to fulfill the 1 credit? Will there be a 1 credit course for them?
So you're able to enroll in a 1 credit hour internship in the second 8 weeks of the semester. That is a doable thing. Now, there are deadlines for when you have to enroll in a second 8-week class. So, yeah, you're running a little bit of a risk there by not being enrolled in a third 3 credit hour class to fulfill the 4th hour that you need. So you're basically saying, I'm banking on the likelihood of getting an internship for that 1 credit hour in the second 8 weeks. So I think you just need to talk to a program director, make sure that you're managing that well, because the last thing that I want to have happen is that you suddenly can't get an internship or something happens with an internship and then you're 1 credit hour short of being able to graduate. So think about all of the ramifications of that and just make sure you're starting to look for an internship very early, like now, if you're thinking about that 1 credit hour being in the second 8 weeks of the spring semester.
Alrighty, well, we are at 5 o'clock, so I'm not sure if you have any closing remarks.
So did we take care of most of the questions?
Yeah, just about everything. I did answer some people as private replies, but yes, we covered mostly everything.
Well, first of all, if you're attending this webinar, we really appreciate that. I think that getting a jump start on the enrolling process for spring 2021 is really important. And I think for many of our students, you weren't yet aware of what the course modalities were going to be for spring, and now you have that information. I think what's really great is that not only do you get this webinar that kind of helps you through the transactional issues of enrolling and answers those transactional questions that are important to you, the fact that all of the degree programs are making themselves available so that you can answer course and elective questions that are specific to your degree program. And the best people to do that are your program directors, and they've dedicated time to do that in this next week. So I strongly encourage all of you to attend those. If you can't attend, then send them an email and make sure they can send you a recording. Norma, do we know if all of these sessions that are on the screen are going to be recorded?
I believe so.
We will
I
send
can't
them
say
a
for sure.
message and we will ask them to make sure that they record them so that they can turn around and send those links out to all of the current students. So we'll make sure that we do that so that you can get this information at your convenience in case maybe you can't attend, you're in another class. And then the other thing I would say to all of you is that, your school is really proud of you. This has been a moment in our lives where we've had to transcend what we even thought was possible. And I think we've done it in a really amazing way. I'm so proud of our graduate students and how they've engaged with each other. They haven't let the moment define them. They've transcended it and said, we're pushing on. We're going to be able to tackle the most difficult thing that is thrown at us in the future because we're demonstrating that we can tackle this now. Really impressed with your level of engagement in student organizations. It has been through the roof, and it shows how our students care about the defined culture and are not letting this crazy coronavirus stop you from moving the trajectory of your life forward. So we're really proud of you, and we hope that in the next few weeks, as you get ready to register, that you'll get all of the information that you need and that you'll have it all at your fingertips so that you can orchestrate registration without any difficulties. But we do want to tell each and every one of you, you have a concern or an issue, don't hesitate to reach out to your program. Don't hesitate to set up an appointment with the advising office for any transactional issues you have. And if you have any question and you just don't know where to ask the question, send an email to jendal@utdallas.edu and I will make sure that my office gets you an answer to that question, because making sure that our students are comfortable with the circumstances is really important to the deans, and we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. So I want to thank Corina for your time this afternoon. I'm so grateful that you can put time into helping students remind them of these issues around registration. Norma for managing everything behind the scenes, and then to our program directors who have piped in this afternoon and helped us out and who are so giving of their time to hold these sessions this next week. We want you to be in touch with us. Don't hesitate to ask for help and let us know that you're doing okay, and we cannot wait to see you back here in human form. So in the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day, a great rest of the semester. Be in touch with us if we can help you.